Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. So,
well, it's the day after the fact. Good morning and welcome, Amaupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, yes, the fact that the president has assented to the bill is now the 2026 Electoral Act, but not without response from different quarters, as you might imagine. Well, we do know that, well, not that one that I'm seeing there, I hope not. But Peter B is responding. He's among several responses coming through. Well, he thinks, quote, let me just say, he wrote to the president and said, look, what you hastily assented to is neither the will nor the aspiration of the Nigerian people. It reflects a deeply flawed electoral amendment engineered by loyalists within the National Assembly of Nigeria, an amendment that undermines the very foundation of our democracy. Nigeria deserves transparency, credibility, and reforms that strengthen, not weaken, public trust in the electoral process. Any attempt to subvert the collective will of the people is a direct affront to democratic principles and the sovereignty of citizens. Be assured, the resolve of well-meaning Nigerians is unshaken. The mission is restore integrity, accountability, and genuine leadership. One that reflects the true voice of the people remains firm. The future of our democracy will not be compromised. Well, the president did explain why he assented to it. The Senate president also in that signing, well, is it mini ceremony? Well, they're all speaking about why they did what they did. Not that the people didn't see it, not that people don't know. And so it is what it is at the moment.
Well, the president's words were quite instructive. According to him, he says, after every election cycle, we owe Nigerians an honest look at what worked and what must work better. That's how serious democracies behave, and our laws must grow with experience. And he says, today I signed the final amendments to the 2022 Electoral Act into law. Well, he had quite a lot to say, and I think it's best you listen to him because it wasn't just a speech he read. He also spoke extempore. And I think a lot of Nigerians will want to hear what the thinking of the president is with regards to this controversy on e-transmission of results or no e-transmission. Here's what he said.
It is time that we have confidence in our system. No matter how good a system is, it's managed by the people, promoted by the people, and the result is finalized by the people. In fact, for final results, you are not going to be talking to the computer, you are going to be talking to human beings who will announce the final results. And when you look at the crux of various arguments, maybe Nigeria should question our broadband capability. How technically are we today? How technically will we be tomorrow to answer the call of, either read time or no? And as long as you appear personally as a manual voter in any polling booth, but ballot paper is given to you manually, you decide in a corner and fingerprint, thumbprint the party of your choice, you cast your vote without hindrance and any interference. Ballots are subsequently counted manually, sorted and counted manually. It's just the arithmetic accuracy that is entered into from easy take. It's still manual, essentially. The transmission of that manual result is what we're looking at. And we need to avoid glitches. I'm glad you did. Interference, unnecessary hacking in this age of, computer inquisitiveness. Nigeria will be there we will flourish.
Democracy rewritten. But that is how many Nigerians are describing that moment when the president signed the 2026 Electoral Act amendment into law. Despite protests, despite the rowdy scenes in the National Assembly, and despite deep public disagreements over the future of real-time electronic transmission of election results, the new law retains a crucial caveat. If electronic transmission fails, manual collation through Form EC8A stands. Or supporters argue, reflects Nigeria's infrastructural realities, challenging broadband coverage and the risk of election day system failure. Critics, on the other hand, say something else entirely, that this marks a retreat from technological transparency and reopens old wounds about trust in the electoral process. So, where does this leave Nigeria's democracy ahead of the next general elections? Has the system been strengthened or fundamentally altered in ways that may shape political outcomes? Well, joining us this morning is Senator Victor Ome, who is the chairman, Senate Committee on National Identity and National Population. He is also a member representing Anambra Central of the Labour Party. He served and is still serving in the 10th National Assembly. He was on the floor when some of these arguments went back and forth. Distinguished, good morning. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you very much, Shehu. I mean, thank you very much, Chamberlain and Maugbe.
Well, brother.
Well, brothers,
it's fine.
I'm in the studio.
Well, the same family.
To come. Same family.
Very much understandable.
I'm sorry about that.
No problems at all. How do you feel about this decision by the president to assent to the bill? I mean, they're signing the bill. It's law now.
Yeah, there's no surprise that it will be so. Anybody who was expecting the president not to assent to the bill is perhaps not honest to himself or herself. The whole process was predicted to end this way, and that's what we have seen. All the arguments or controversies that trailed the amendment, particularly the most controversial clause, that is Section 63 of the Electoral Act of 2026 now. In 2022, it was 65. But the proposed amendment is Section 63, which had to do with mandatory electronic transmission of results from the polling units to the IREF portal. What we had in the 2022 Act, which has now been repealed, was a transfer of results in a manner prescribed by the Electoral Commission. It didn't talk about electronic transmission there. The Act provided that the Commission, which is INEC, will prescribe the mode of making this transfer. And in the election that we had in 2023, the INEC prescription of that mode was contained in the guideline, which it made. It should be transmitted electronically. That's the guideline. But in the Act, it says it is the INEC that will prescribe the mode. And after the elections, of course, with what happened in the process of movement of those results from the polling unit to the final declaration of results, it became very contentious that that mode which INEC prescribed would be the mode of transmission of the result had a glitch. They told us, because the results were uploaded and transmitted electronically. And then on that day, all the National Assembly elections, House of Reps and Senate, the transmission went without any glitch. The presidential election was said to have had a glitch. They couldn't transmit the result of the presidential election. That was what led to the litigation that went up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said that the electronic transmission of result was not known to the Electoral Act. Lawyers have argued, even legal luminaries have argued, that the prescription which INEC made that the results should be transmitted electronically was a power it exercised by the Act, which gave her the power to prescribe the mode. So it is lawful. The Supreme Court said otherwise, that electronic transmission was not explicitly stated in the Act, you know. So that was what led to the failure of the litigations that went up to the Supreme Court. So that's what led to this proposed amendment, so that the electronic transmission of results will be provided for in the Act, so that the Act itself will recognize electronic transmission of results. And that's what the whole essence of this amendment, which went the way it did. So looking at the whole thing now, there is no way one, seeing what played out in both chambers of the National Assembly, one will not be expecting that at the end the president will veto the National Assembly or say that he doesn't want to assent to the bill, because everything was tailored to meet a certain end. We were there and we saw it develop. Initially, the first bill we passed contained transfer of results. In other words, what the Electoral Act of 2022 had in Section 65 was what was passed in the Senate, the first one. The House of Reps passed mandatory electronic transmission of results as proposed by the joint committees of the National Assembly on Electoral Matters, both Senate and House of Reps. You know, but in our own case, there was a glitch.
If you like
they call it a glitch. The glitch was that we couldn't sustain that important recommendation for mandatory transmission of results to the IREF portal on real time. You know, House of Reps passed their own. So we had to fight within the Senate around it. It led to a rescission of the first one following public outcry. The Senate now had to review what it did, you know, because when the Senate makes something happen, you now say the Senate. Even though there was division within the Senate, many people in the first instance agreed to mandatory electronic transmission of results on real time to the IREF portal. So, but when something happened and that mandatory transmission of results electronically was expunged and returned to manual transfer, or that transfer of result, not manual, transfer, as contained in Section 65 of the Act. We made noise. We went public. We said that wasn't what we agreed to generally in the Senate executive session by the ad hoc committee set up by the Senate to review what the Electoral Committee had done, which was in tandem with what the House of Reps had already passed. Then now we came back. It was rescinded, and electronic transmission, which they said earlier on that they didn't remove, they had now to agree to put electronic transmission. But with a proviso now.
Yeah.
It is the proviso that sparked another round of controversy, because we disagreed with that. Proviso, if you make a law and say that provided that there will be no communication failure. In other words, you're already proposing that there will be communication failure. In my view, and many other senators felt that it was a speculative provision. That proviso is speculative. It's not certain. You say where there is communication failure.
Yeah,
but Senator, so that has opened the door.
Couldn't your, the senators who opposed it, do you think they did enough? Because those who thought, if you felt it was ambiguous and speculative, couldn't you have said, okay, well, if the majority of them are bent on leaving this proviso there, in other words, then tell us specifically what is going to be the major determinant of when there isn't any network? what standards, what measures should we adopt to know so that somebody doesn't wake up in Electoral and say, there's no network, I can't upload this.
So
and then
that is the reason why we opposed it. Because when you say, once this happens, you now jettison electronic transmission. What we have done is that open the door back to anybody who will not claim that there was no communication, there was no internet or communication availability for you to upload the result. So what it follows is that somebody can claim that and then do a different thing. There's no way you can hold somebody tightly to it that he must or she must agree that she has network or anything. So somebody can just claim it.
No, Senator, we all know that we can. There are certain. We're not in 1900. I mean, technology is so advanced now. You could even right there where they stand, you could see the speed test. You could see what facilities are there. You could see, because INEC keep telling us and they keep repeating it. They've had several reports. These things are possible. So if lawmakers knew that, look, this is a loophole, then they prepare them and tell us, look.
No, the people who were opposed to it, who are proposing that there will be network failure, are the people that will be answering questions, not those of us who know that indeed INEC has been conducting elections and transmitting results electronically without any difficulty.
No, I'm just looking at the second option, for instance,
yes,
because if they were insisting that this proviso must be there, because right now, just as you said, it's speculative. Anybody can wake up and say, oh, there's no network.
How do you determine?
Yeah, but there has to be.
Network has failed.
Exactly, because if the senator said that you people called the telcos, and then they all came to that conclusion, we were not strong enough, these things can't happen.
Who called them?
In the release for the Directorate of Public.
There was nothing like that. It is a self-prepared
Senator Bamidele's statement. Self-prepared.
It's good that you are quoting those who say so. They are the people you will hold onto account over this issue. In 2023 general election, all the results were uploaded successfully. We are 109 senators. We have 360 members of the House of Representatives. This election took place with the presidential election on the same day. And all of us, 469 of us, came to the National Assembly through electronically transmitted polling booth results to the RF portal. So if we were able to achieve it in 2023, why should somebody in 2026 say that it is no longer possible? What has happened to the infrastructure with which those transmissions were done successfully in 2023? And we arrived in Abuja here, 469 of us, through that process. So somebody is trying to be economical with the truth, trying to make a case to sustain the sabotage, because this is sabotage.
No, not all of you. Not all of you came the same day, unfortunately, because it would appear that in some instances the results were contested. Because and clearly it would appear that what the process that INEC put in place also helped some of the senators or let's say lawmakers argue their cases effectively, so much so that eventually they were able to join you. A case in point, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, whose results, were not declared at that time. Somebody else was declared as the winner. But let me bring...
no, but the foundation
was already there.
The foundation was that same election conducted on that day, that particular 25th of February.
So I think it also goes to emphasize the human factor, which the president already made reference to. Yeah. That, it is human beings that would declare this thing at the end of the day. And, it is still human beings we have to interface with, which brings to the fore this question of human interference. There's something you said, and I kept on saying, who is the question that needs to be asked here? You said this was the result of, this was we saw this come in, it was going to be, this was the result which the process was tailored to achieve.
Yes.
And I'm wondering who was tailoring this process? That is the question that you haven't quite, when you say was tailored, is it tailored by members of the National Assembly? Were there external influences tailoring this process? Who exactly was pushing this, engineering it?
The answer is obvious. If the House of Representatives passed this amendment without any modification, they passed what was gathered from the public hearings and joint sessions and stakeholders consultative actions. They passed it. Then the Senate did not pass it that way. They changed. And so people were saying that, oh, there will be now a conference and harmonization committee. I remember appearing in another television show in Arise News with Ruben Abati. He accused me of jumping the gun, that the process had not ended, that there will be a conference, there will be harmonization before the final thing is done. I told him, no, I'm not jumping because I know where it is headed to. Because I know that the House of Reps will not sustain its position. The Senate and House of Reps...
You knew that already?
I knew that already because these are two sides of the same coin. The House of Reps is controlled by the APC. The Senate is controlled by the APC. And when they come together, my word in that interview was that it will be a case of people coming together to harmonize their interests. And that is what has happened. When they were prevailed to recant from what they had passed, they now came back to adopt what Senate did. And it is self-serving. It is to serve the interests of the APC. There's no way anybody can think otherwise. And for the fact that finally it ended that way, the prediction was right. If they were acting in national interest, there's no way the House of Representatives would throw in everything they had passed as, their own bill, and joined the Senate to come up with this one now. And they've started saying different things.
I wanted to ask you a question on the issue of the transmission itself. It would seem that we've paid so much attention to the from EC8A, or that proviso that the Senate added, in such a way that we have not determined, in the event that there is a dispute. Yes, some people will say that on the face of what the senators were saying, or what the Senate passed, it was supposed to be, on the face of it, it was just supposed to be a backup plan, just in case. I know that you argue that it was not needed, and a lot of Nigerians believe it's not needed. But on the face of it, I mean, we're all privy to technology in our country. We know that many times it works. In fact, in most cases it works. But occasionally, there are failures. So, and I remember that when the Senate president was putting that question to members of the National Assembly, the way he put it was very interesting. He said, so in the case that it doesn't go, the election ends there.
It was
being dramatic, right?
It was just dramatizing it.
It was dramatizing it.
How can anybody say if such a thing happens, the election will stop? No,
exactly.
That's not what I'm saying. They have not averted their minds to explanations already adduced by INEC itself. I'm sure there is a video you would have seen where Mahmoud Yakubu explained this issue of electronic transmission. That the device works offline and online. In other words, when you finish the election, this from EC8A is the foundation of the result of the election everywhere. And once you do it, you do it manually. Once you count the votes, like the president said, you record it, sign it by the presiding officer, agents of the parties sign, and then copies are given to party agents. That is the foundation of the result. The issue of electronic transmission to IREF portal is a safeguard. Transmission of result to the IREF portal is not a collation. So when they are talking about manual collation and all that, it has never changed.
So what
the result that goes to the IREF portal secures the EC8A.
Indeed.
Indeed. So that when you are doing manual collation from the ward to the local government, because the polling booth results, once you snap them and upload to the IREF portal, you have secured that EC8A. So if you go to the ward collection center and you add figures that are not correct with what are contained in the EC8 that's in the IRF portal now,
yes,
the result will
be different.
Will be different.
And I think that is
from where elections are rigged.
So
during collation.
I think that one more important proviso was not added, perhaps in the argument for this e-transmission, which is where there is a dispute between what the physical form is saying and what has already been uploaded, because it still makes compulsory uploading, compulsory transmission. It is that, okay, when we don't see it, then we revert to this. But when there is a dispute, when you eventually get to the collation center and maybe everything has already been uploaded, I want to believe that by that time, by the time everybody gets there, the results should have been uploaded on the IREV. Now, if you bring a physical form and there is a dispute between what is on the physical form and the IREV portal, the law doesn't state clearly which one should be accepted.
Of course, it was stated there that the EC8A result shall be the primary result that will be used in that collation. But you see, it doesn't work like that. I'm taking part in the election. Let me tell you.
Just a moment. The EC8A is the primary. Which EC8A?
It has always been.
The EC8A, the physical copy, the EC8A uploaded to IREV.
Yes.
They are both EC8As, aren't they?
The same thing, yes.
Yes. So which of the EC8As will then be the primary source of collation? And don't you see an opportunity here for politicians to impress upon INEC to perhaps make a rule in regards of this?
No, the collection will be guided by the EC8A. This is the result. And during elections, remember, in every ward collation center, there is an ICT expert positioned by INEC with his or her computer. So once you generate the EC8As in the polling units and bring them to the ward collation center, and you start imputing the results into the computer, when you want to add, as you enter it, the ICT expert enters it as well. There is an audit check of that result. Assuming the ward has 20 polling units, by the time you put in the results of the 20 polling units as contained in this EC8As gathered at that collation center, you must agree, because the ICT expert who is there will be putting it as the other man is, the presiding officer is, or the ward collation officer is making entries. If he does not tally, he will query it. That result will not go to the next stage. So there are safeguards already provided for in this. What the IREV portal will serve in securing the election is that once you upload it, it's already there. And when you are doing collation, and somebody brings EC8, don't you know that people print result sheets? Have you heard it before? When you bring something that is not the correct thing, it will fall out of what is already in the IRF portal.
Indeed.
Already established and secured.
Indeed.
So there is no reason saying again that this thing will be so, particularly as it has been agreed, even from the track-up I saw yesterday. The Senate President said that if you upload and it doesn't go immediately, that within few minutes, that it will go. Or when you step into where there is service, it will go.
Indeed.
So what are you providing for again by saying that it should not be so? Since the result is already secured in the device, and within minutes, it must go. So there's no point going back to those proviso.
So that's
because the result is already established and is in the device. And within 5 minutes, thereabout, it must upload. So that result will never be there. But if you now say, no, that if it fails, you don't know how long that failure will last.
Mm-hmm.
All right. People will manipulate that period of failure to even be 2 days. Somebody can now say, oh, it's impossible to upload even after 3 days because network never returned. And by the time you are making this case, all the results have been built up as they were bringing them, manipulating the collection.
Then the network will return when the results have been announced.
Yes, even sometimes when the results have been announced.
And the reason why some of these things are very concerning to Nigerians is because of the cycle, the system. Because if the courts, if the courts were actually standing, if they were true to type, people wouldn't be bothered. about some of these things because they know that what they present to the courts will do what they have to do. But these days, they don't know if the court will do right by the law, as it were. But some of the other electoral changes is the mode of primaries. So I think they've taken off that clause where it's got to be indirect primaries. It now has to be by consensus or only direct primaries.
You see, I was a party administrator. I was national chairman of ABGA for 10 years, And this issue of indirect or direct, no matter how you run away from the control of maybe somebody who is the governor of a state in determining the way candidates emerge, you are just postponing your disadvantage. Because if you say that indirect, that governors will control the delegates, the same direct, the governor will now tell the party members where to vote. And they have ways of checkmating deviant action. If you are the chairman of the local government, the governor facilitated to become the executive chairman, on the day of primary, direct primary, you must deliver who the governor wants in that mass movement of party members to go and queue up and all that. So you cannot even eliminate the influence of the governor. Why I think it is not right for us to determine how a party chooses its candidate in an election is because you'll be concerning yourself with the contest. Anybody the party brings as its candidate, what Nigerians want will be to exercise choice between candidate A of this party, candidate B of this party, candidate C of this party, and vote for the person they want that will be their representative or somebody that will exercise the power on their behalf.
Not all the time, distinguished.
Yes.
In many instances, Nigerians are now interested, even though they're yet to join a lot of political parties, but a lot of Nigerians are now interested in the internal workings of political parties. They want to see internal democracy thrive. They want to see the best candidates being thrown up within political parties, because it would seem that the rigging already starts from within the workings of the political party. But what you seem to be saying is that the working is the done deal. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
What I'm only saying is that none is foolproof. Direct primary or indirect, none guarantees that safety you are thinking about. And that is why the court has had the view that the internal affairs of a political party should be with them because of these confusions that will arise when you try to streamline things. In the end, what you should concern yourself with is who stands for the election for your party. Because if you don't bring somebody who the the electorate will vote for, you lose the election. So it is for the party to do their internal selection of candidates in a manner that candidate will win the confidence of the electorate. If we continue to legislate over everything, then we will see that sometimes it will be impracticable.
All right, Senator,
these candidates.
Let's wind down now. Given what is playing out and the discontent in several quarters, can we count on opposition? Because many think that they don't even seem to be getting their act together. That if they had pulled together, be strong enough, then maybe the majority party will not have the effrontery to be carrying out with reckless abandon, as many describe it.
Well, politics is about number. And when you talk about opposition, particularly in this process we went through, amendment.
No, I'm talking about political party now. Political parties.
Political parties. Political parties produce people who represent them. So these things, people will be talking the way they want, but those who are already vested with the authority to exercise this franchise on your behalf are the people you'll be looking at. When this matter came, we even succeeded, because initially it was transfer.
I'm talking about formation of political parties, the AGC, the groups that are supposed to be pulling themselves together. If they had at least given or gone further and given that impression, or at least seemed to be well organized, maybe they would have thought, wait a minute, if we misstep somewhere here, there's somebody waiting behind us to snatch it from us.
I think the proper question to ask is what political reform do we need to sustain democracy in Nigeria? how do we take steps to prevent the situation we have found ourselves in now, where the legislature, the executive, they are of the same party. In America passed through many years of reform.
I understand
that.
They
go where they are.
That's a longer term. I'm talking about right now.
Where we are right now, you have to do with what you have seen. The law has been passed and assented to.
Yeah,
so that is what is going to guide the election. And it is only when the election is conducted in 2027 that Nigerians will then gather again and begin to push for further reform from what has happened. Because the electronic transmission wasn't there. It was our pressure and pressure of Nigerians out there that made the Senate to cave in and admitted the electronic transmission in part. And they put a proviso, which is still controversial. Maybe after 2027 election, things will play out, and Nigerians will now see that that proviso must go at all costs.
No, before that time, there will be the preparation. I'm sure you'll be traveling soon back home for congresses.
Yes.
Different people have gone.
Yes.
So that's what I'm talking about. Congress is going on. And which is the viable opposition people can say, this can be positioned to upstage the ruling party as of now?
Well, the only thing that can upstage the ruling party will be the candidate you present. I've told you.
Candidates
Candidate is key to winning an election.
Parties are what?
Yes, party is the platform through where you bring out the candidates. So if you bring a candidate the electorate will vote for, you will win. If you don't bring out that candidate, no matter how you do it, whether direct or indirect,
did they not bring out a candidate in the last presidential election? Didn't we see, yes, even though they pulled their weight, but at the end of the day, it didn't sail through. So you just spoke about the influence of governors.
Yes.
So don't you need that aggregation of people?
Within the Senate who went against indirect primary argue that their governors will block them. You know, so and if you continue to look in that direction, you miss the focus. The focus, that's what I'm saying, that the important thing is the election itself. Who is contesting for you? Who is contesting for this? Who is contesting? It's not about how you emerged as a candidate. The person who will contest the election is the person who will be clothed with power and authority if the person wins.
Don't forget resources.
You must make choice.
Power and authority without resources is frustration.
Well, that is saying that no change will ever be made.
No, I'm only stating what is realistic. It takes funds, resources to conduct elections.
Resources are important. But I tell you that in a credible, free and fair election, somebody who has resources will fail election. People have rejected money and voted for candidates of their choice. It will still happen.
We pray that
that's what we should be
more in this country.
aiming to achieve, so that this process that has brought us to this stage where we are will one day become a thing of the past. Civilized democracies has passed through this. Do you know that there was a time in America a black man and a white man would not sit in the same bus? So it's like that in this electoral process we're going through. One day, somebody will come out and say, let's make the road straight. Let's make everything even. Yar'Adua attempted it, but he didn't live to see it through.
We appreciate your time, Senator Victor May, representing Anambra Central of Labour Party. But I know they say 24 hours in politics is a long time.
No, it's just, I'm no longer in Labour Party, please.
Oh,
yes.
So now you're where?
Well, I'm in ADC.
Have you moved?
There are processes to do that.
Okay, the process is on.
It's on.
Okay,
yes,
so it's not been finalized.
They know that we're ADC. And finally, it's just writing a letter to say this is where I am, and it will be recorded. Okay. Many of us are in that process now.
At least we shouldn't be worried about glitch in that area.
No, whatever happens will happen to everybody.
All right.
And that's why I'm saying that the important thing is to make the election credible. If it's not credible, that change that you are yearning for will never come.
Thank you, Senator Victor May.
No matter how difficult it is today, someday God will do something, and it will become possible.
So we will be back in just a moment. Don't go away. All right, several questions continue to swirl over reports of U.S. troops in Nigeria, the release of Malam Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, and then you also have the 2026 Electoral Act that has been signed into law. Well, Lala Kode joins us now, host of Inside Sources and former presidential aide. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, guys. Good to see you again.
Well, where do we start off with now? These troops, the U.S. troops in the country. And so even though people keep wondering, they've seen the strategic locations of where they are landing and the logistics, the military equipment and logistics moving on. And then you see the figure, 200. That's quite a significant number. And not just 200 of any other country, but 200 U.S. troops. So it appears as though I think there will be a lot more than is being circulated out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually cheering news that the partnership between Nigeria and the U.S. on this security support is thriving. That is very good. And the fact that the Americans have become comfortable enough to return. You know, you remember that they had previous experiences, you know, that they had concerns about, you know, but so it's good that, you know, they have made the judgment and the assessment that it is safe for them to come back, and now they are here on the ground, and there's no way that they wouldn't help change the situation. There's really no way. They have the understanding, they have the capacity, they have the equipment, you know, and they are going to inspire some reforms in the Nigerian military, you know, because they are coming as advisors. We have asked them to come and advise us. What I will say to our military institution is that they should do everything to make sure that this thing works. Don't forget why we are here, because we have a situation where Nigerians are being killed like chicken. And by ourselves, you know, over the years, we have shown that we can't do this thing on our own. So the Americans are here to help lift up the situation. So my suggestion and my word to the Nigerian military is that to do everything to ensure that this is a success. We want an end to the killings.
You know, I heard some of the congressmen in the States say things like, Nigeria government has not done enough to protect the people, but then they're reaching out to countries like Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. They wonder why. And then you know that to move a country's resources of this magnitude coming here, it can't be free.
Yeah,
there's got to be something.
Well, you know, so in diplomacy, you know, we are always looking for mutual relationships. So there is
There's got to be more than relationship here.
Well, it is relationship.
There has to be some economic benefits.
Well, even in diplomacy, there are economic transactions. You know, you give, I take, you give. That's why the principle of reciprocity is always there. The point is that we should make sure that it is mutual, not that anybody is taking advantage of the other party. And I don't see any reason why we cannot have mutual relationship with the Americans. Clearly, you know, we have a lot to learn from them, and we can benefit from their exceeding power, especially trying to secure what government is meant to do to provide security for the people. We need the Americans' help, and I'm very glad that this president and this government has found a way to make it happen. We just hope that the military will also follow suit and ensure that this agreement works perfectly and gives us security.
I do know, yes, that indeed we had history with the U.S. troops. You know, what you said about them having confidence enough to come back is very instructive. Yeah. However, we also know the climb under which they have come back. It's another administration, and we've seen what that administration has been capable of in other countries. So much so that when we listened to the Prime Minister of Canada at the just concluded Davos, I mean, his speech was very instructive. It would seem that right now we are now in that world order where realism is totally at play. The world powers, those that have power, are exercising power. It's not a question of choice. You don't have much of a choice. If this is what they say they want to do, that's what they want to do. And so a lot of Nigerians, while they are optimistic that this results, which you are very hopeful about, will be the outcomes that we see, that less and less Nigerians lose their lives needlessly to jihadists and terrorists and all manner of criminal groups and gangs, they cannot just help but wonder at what cost will this really be coming to them, and for how long? I mean, there's questions that we really need to be asking. How long are these people detailed to be here? You know, how much are they going to be embedded into our system? So some people say, well, I don't want to be so cynical to say how strong were the systems that if they really wanted to get intelligence, they can't get it. But it's one thing. It's one thing for you to, exactly. I mean, we had a former governor telling us how they were tapping the NSA's line. So if they really wanted to get what they said that they can't get, but it's one thing for people to do it codedly. It's another thing for you to invite people with your own hands and open up your systems to them, as the case may be. So, for you, what reservations do you have about this? Will I say interventions, this very kind interventions, or the seemingly kind interventions of the U.S. government?
Well, you know, I'm going to take the route of expediency. I will not prioritize those concerns, but I don't dismiss them. Okay, so and that's why we call on our people to open their eyes while all of this is going on. But if you look at the extent of damage, you know, clearly we need help. Those folks in Benue, in Plateau, in Northeast, in Northwest that are being ravaged, they don't care who is trying to help them because it has become existential for those people. And that is the attitude that I take. Those points are valid, yes. You know, we have to be worried about how this exposes us. Are there dangers? Are there, you know, factors that are not necessarily salutary to us? But for this time, at this moment, we must prioritize the fact that we need help, and these folks are helping us to save the situation. So I don't dismiss those factors, but I'm saying that you've got to prioritize security.
What are some of the outcomes that you're looking for? Because it's very instructive that I think it's a day after they landed, a day after we heard that they were in town or they had, you know, set foot on Nigerian soil was when we heard about the attacks in Kwara State, in Woro and Nuhu communities, where, from what we even know, people were abducted. People weren't just killed. Over 70 people were killed overnight. And, you know, over 100 people were abducted in those raids that happened in those in the Kwara communities. Very, you know, sad story. What outcomes are you looking to see from their intervention? From what you know of what it is that they've come to do?
Yeah, so the outcome that I'm expecting is that we organize our military, particularly our military, in a more decisive manner that increases the efficiency of their firepower. Now, I'm not expecting that just because you have the 200 American troops and the advisors on the ground, that by itself alone is going to change the situation. No, we still need the president and the governors to get on with the internal reforms that we have been demanding, namely state police. Let each state be able to secure its territory. It's easier that way in terms of structure. We haven't seen a lot of movement in that capacity. And like I've always said, when the president wanted to do the tax reforms, he bullied his way through. You know, we need the president to become more bullish on the question of state police. The Americans come in, we help our military to do what they know to do. It will inspire them. It will give them additional elements of force to use, you know, help their strategy, help their training. But ultimately, Nigerians, by ourselves, are the ones that can solve this problem comprehensively. And one of the things that we have left undone is to bring about state police. Look, in May, it's going to be 3 years of this administration. The APC promised this thing in 2015. This is 11 years. It is time that the APC deliver their promise on state police. There has to be a wider, comprehensive implementation of security reforms that we got to do.
Let me quickly chip this in with regards to your expectations for the U.S. troops. Do you think there will be discrimination with where they intervened? Because this was about Christians, the first instance.
No, I don't expect that. The rhetoric, of the American, the Christian persecution is important for local American politics, because the people that are driving President Trump are coming from the Christian right. When they attacked, as a matter of fact, the first attack that they showed on Christmas Day was in the in the northwest. So I don't think that they're going to be limited. And they've even said, even people like Riley Moore, Congressman Smith, have said that, look, we are not saying that it's only Christians. And I think we've gone past that. Nigerians are being killed, Christians are being killed, Muslims are being killed.
What do you think is going on with Malam Nasser El-Rufai?
Well, I think what Rotimi Amechi said makes a lot of sense. Amechi says that, El-Rufai does not have the capacity to hack any system. The man is just a liar. El-Rufai is a liar. Take it from his boss, Obasanjo. Obasanjo said the guy is a malicious, pathological liar. I take, Amechi right. He's right. The man has no capacity. But because when he talks like that, it creates an atmosphere that ridicules a lot of the situation and gives him that the impression as if he knows what he's doing and is on top of his game. And because he's also a very strong opponent, so he says all these things. Who doesn't know that El-Rufai is reckless? Who doesn't know that El-Rufai is divisive? He doesn't have the capacity. I agree entirely with Amechi. El-Rufai does not have the capacity to bug anything.
But I can have financial capacity to get those who can to do it.
Well, and that is why I think the federal government cannot sit down and say that, okay, we're not going to do anything. This guy went on TV. So they're going to harass him. They're going to go after him legally. They're going to constrain him. He's going to lose his freedom for a while for his reckless statement. But there's no way they're even going to convict him, except indeed they bring reproof. Lawyers have said that what he said on TV was not said under caution. I mean, it means, under caution means that when you go to court, they ask you, raise up your hand, you are saying this, or, on the Bible, whatever you say is going to be, we don't do that as journalists. We don't say that when you come to the studio.
They should cut us some slack. Don't they invite journalists to come to court when guests say certain things?
So my point is that, so what he said was not under caution, and he also knew what he was doing. El-Rufai is doing what he does best, raise alarm all over the place. But I think they should still treat him right. They should. His fundamental rights ought to be protected, even though we know that he is all the things that we know him to be. He's a liar, he's divisive, but he's still entitled to his fundamental rights.
It's political season, so you'd expect a lot of this kind of back and forth from different persons in different political parties, all to achieve a certain aim, many of which you may not even know what it's about.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on, as always.
Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps it up today here on the program. We will see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Asaf. Goodbye.
Can't believe Thursday's over just like that. Thank you for watching. I'm Maukwe Ogun Yusuf, wishing you a productive day.